Hi everyone, I'm Gopika. I'm a speech language pathologist. I specialize in pediatric speech, language, and communication, ranging from motor speech and articulation difficulties to developmental language delays to more neuromedical complex diagnoses. I also am passionate about parent coaching and finding ways to provide parents with communication tools and the confidence to facilitate communication on their own. I've been practicing for over a decade, and I currently have my own private practice in the Los Angeles area. I have 2 boys of my own, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we are huge Lovevery fans. I wouldn't be surprised if they busted in any moment now as I'm borrowing their room. Anyway, thanks for sending so many questions. Unfortunately, we can't get to all of them, but I'll be answering a handful of questions that were the most frequently asked. The average monolingual child develops their first words around 12 months. Research indicates that bilingual children may say their first words slightly later than monolingual children, but still within that normal age range, so around 15 months. There's no indication that speaking 2 languages to your child will cause a delay in their language development. In regards to speech development or sound development, speaking multiple languages to a child allows them to access different phonemes or different sounds that are harder to learn as one gets older. So it's actually a benefit to start early. Parents are sometimes concerned because it may seem like their child has a language delay. For example, the average child has approximately 50 words by 18 months. And this is pretty easy to count in a monolingual child and to see if they've hit that milestone. With bilingual children, their words may be split, so they may have 25 words in one language and 25 words in another, or 17 in one and 33 in the other. And so it may seem like a delay since they don't have a robust vocabulary in one language. But if you combine all the vocabulary words in both languages, it more often than not will add up to the expected average. And so it's not considered a delay. The common rule is that if there is a delay or disorder in one language, you will most likely see that delay or disorder in the other language. Children raised bilingually from birth, or if the second language is introduced to them before the age of 3, go through the same developmental stages as children learning one language. So from time to time, it is expected that the bilingual child may mix grammar rules, and they might use words from both languages within the same sentences, but this is a normal part of becoming bilingual. If a child is introduced to a second language after the age of 3, the child may not speak much when they first start using the second language. This is called a silent period and can last a few weeks or even a few months, but this is typical, and it's because they usually have to gain a firm grasp on the language and comprehend and understand the language before they can attempt actually using it. Before I answer this specific question, I would like to explain the difference between developmental stuttering or typical disfluencies versus true stuttering or atypical disfluencies. It's not unusual for a child to have some bumps or typical disfluencies in their speech. Usually these disfluencies are syllables, whole words, or phrase repetitions like, I want to go. usually they repeat these syllables, words, or phrases only once or twice. And typical dysfluencies may be seen between the ages of 2 to 5 years old, and they tend to come and go. And they come on especially during times of like language or cognitive bursts, when learning to use language in new ways, or when your child is tired or super excited. For many toddlers and preschoolers, these dysfluencies go away on their own after a short period of time. As a contrast, true stuttering is often seen when a child repeats sounds or syllables more than twice. Lie, like this. You may also see prolongations. No, thank you. Or blocks. I want a popsicle. And sometimes physical tension and struggle in the facial muscles. If these characteristics persist more than 6 months or occur after the age of 3.5, or if there's a family history of stuttering, you may want to have your child meet with a speech-language pathologist. The therapist will be able to decide whether your child is truly stuttering and figure out whether to wait a bit longer or to begin treatment right away. So back to the question. Here are some guidelines for parents with children who stutter. 1, reduce your pace and your rate of speech. As much as possible, speak with your child in an easy, relaxed, unhurried way, pausing frequently. The way parents model easy, relaxed speech has been proven to be more effective than by directly saying, slow down or try again to your child. 2, wait a few seconds after your child finishes whatever they're saying before you begin to speak. So this will teach them that they do not need to rush to get whatever they need to say out, and that you are there. You're giving your child your undivided attention and will not cut them off. The increased pressure to finish fast often leads to stuttering. 3, drop the questions. While asking questions is a totally normal part of life and part of conversation, it increases the pressure to come up with language and perform. So sometimes it's more helpful to comment on what your child has said and wait for them to continue, as opposed to asking more questions to seek out information. 4, take turns talking and listening. So children find it much easier to speak in an easy, relaxed manner when there are fewer interruptions and when they don't need to compete to be heard. 5, this is really important. Build confidence in your child. There is a lot of research about self-esteem and stuttering, and we want our children to know that they are heard and they can take the time to express what they want to say. So using descriptive praise will really help to build your child's confidence. It's natural for some young children around age 2 to have a lisp. They're still little and their tongue is starting to engage in more mature movement patterns and become coordinated and stronger to move up and back. For many 2-year-olds, they have finished using pacifiers and baby bottles and started to wean thumb sucking. So this allows for more movement in their mouth. So research has indicated that 75% of children will have naturally acquired mature S sound around 4.5. So if the frontal lisp is the only speech issue and it's not really affecting your child's speech clarity, I wouldn't be too worried. However, here's some other questions I have. Does your child's tongue protrude while eating and or drinking? Is your child drooling a lot? Is your child's tongue protruding at other times, like when engaging in a motor activity or while playing with toys? Is your child's mouth open at rest, and does it seem like your child is breathing mainly from the mouth? And is it hard for your child to close his or her teeth and keep them closed with the tongue inside for approximately 5 seconds? If the answer is yes to a few of these questions, then I would consider having your child assessed by a speech-language pathologist for a tongue thrust. A tongue thrust is different from a lisp, as a lisp is developmental and a young child may grow out of it. A tongue thrust is caused by a muscular imbalance and causes a pattern in which the tongue protrudes forward during not only speech, but also during swallowing and while the tongue is at rest. Sometimes a tongue thrust is caused by enlarged adenoids and tonsils. So if your child has allergies or is chronically congested, this may cause the tongue to push forward as well. So to come back to the original question, I would not be too concerned if your child has a true lisp at the age of 2, as it is developmental and will hopefully become a more accurate S production between the ages of 4 and 5 or earlier. If, however, you feel like your child has a tongue thrust, I would consider speaking with a speech-language pathologist. It's typical for you to be one of the only people who understands your 2-year-old. Your 2-year-old is probably just going through a big language burst and producing different sounds, multisyllabic words and stringing words together. And it's going to take some time to make it all sound clear. But to answer your question, here's the standard guidelines in regards to speech clarity. By 24 months, so 2 years old, a child should be 50% understandable to an unfamiliar listener. By 3 years of age, they should be 75% understandable to an unfamiliar listener. And between 4 and 5 years of age, they should be 90 to 100% understandable to an unfamiliar listener. These guidelines are great. However, I wouldn't wait until your child is 4 years old. If you feel like your 2-year-old is less than 50% understandable to people other than yourself, I think it would be in your child's best interest to seek out consultation by a speech-language pathologist. Babbling is an important milestone, as it is the precursor to first words. Babbling allows your child to engage in vocal play and develop early sounds and early sound combinations. Between 4 to 6 months, a baby engages in babbling where he or she will start to combine consonants like M, P, B, T, D, K, G with vowels. So ba and ma and g. And between 6 to 8 months, your baby will use the same series of consonants and vowel combinations, but over and over and over again. For example, ma, 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 ma. And this is called reduplicative babbling. Then between 8 to 10 months, your baby will start to vary different consonants and vowels within the longer babbling session. So, ba, ba, ma, ma, ka, boo, ga. This is called variegated babbling. It's important to note that the ages I provided are milestones, meaning what most babies can do. Your baby may meet these milestones a little earlier or a little later. However, here are some tips to encourage babbling. 1, you're going to get down to your baby's level, face to face, eye to eye. This way, your baby can really watch your mouth move and try to copy. 2, you're going to model babbling. By modeling how to babble, you're really encouraging your baby to imitate you. Remember to give your baby enough time and space to copy or make an attempt to communicate back. So babble and pause, and then pause some more while looking really expectantly at your child, and then babble some more. If your baby does respond, but with a different sound combination, imitate that sound combination right back. Show your baby that you hear him and that that sound combination he attempted is real and valid. 4, exaggerate your consonants and vowels. Don't go too fast. And 5, this is a really fun game that I like to engage in. Pick a consonant and vowel combination like ba and a familiar nursery rhyme. And instead of singing the actual words to the nursery rhyme, use that consonant and vowel combination to sing to the tune. So if it was Twinkle Twinkle, you would sing ba 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 ba, and so on. Now, if your baby isn't babbling by 9 to 10 months, I would consider reaching out to a local speech language pathologist to gain more information and just to see where your baby is at this moment. The best way to encourage your child to expand his or her short sentences is for you to eagerly model and expand the sentences for your child. There are 2 ways to expand. So you can add an extra word, so the number of words, and you can expand the language itself. So if your child is currently producing 3-word phrases on average, you can model 4-word phrases when you're directly interacting. You know, mommy is running fast. You're eating orange carrots. Children learn so much from modeling. You can also expand on your child's language by using a variety of words. So nouns, verbs, pronouns, prepositions. For example, if your child says, car fall down, you can say, oh, blue car fell down. The blue car fell down. Expansion encourages your child to combine more words. And I do recommend sticking to grammatically correct language as a model. And also remember to exaggerate the new words you're introducing into the phrases or sentences that you are expanding. So instead of blue car fell down, really feel it and really exaggerate the new word. Blue car fell down. That higher pitch and the emphasis and exaggerated voice really has been proven to work. The mask wearing question is a really tough question. Of course, our first and foremost priority is to keep our children safe and healthy, and masks are one of the best ways to do that in the schools and daycares for the foreseeable future. Here's the downside for all of us. Masks attenuate sound by 3 to 12 decibels. Basically, this means that masks dampen the sound and diminish the volume and the quality of speech sound waves. So this sometimes impacts the listener's perception of what's being said. As we know, masks also reduce the ability to read lips and see facial expressions, which changes up our style of communication. At 4 months of age, babies visually focus on parents' and caregivers' eyes and listen to the sounds of the voice. As they age, around 6 to 8 months, babies start to babble. They change the way they look at the people who are speaking to them, and they watch a person's mouth to learn what to do. So yes, some of those visual cues may be missed if a caregiver or a daycare teacher is wearing a mask, but your child may become more aware of other social skills that are huge for communication development, such as gesture use and body language and reading emotional expressions by watching people's eyes. Here's the big takeaway and tip I can give you parents. The focused special attention, or that special time your baby spends at home with people who are not masked, will give her a chance to pick up the visual and verbal cues in order to practice her sounds and develop her speech during these crazy times. So just make sure to get face-to-face, speak slowly, exaggerate your sounds, use a lot of emotional language, and share the big emotions on your face. So many babies use pacifiers, and there are many benefits to pacifiers. Pacifiers help with self-soothing and regulation during times of upset, or really help out when a child is trying to wind down and go to sleep. There's research stating that pacifiers protect against SIDS up to 6 months of age. And there's no indication that pacifiers cause language delays. However, pacifiers can impact dentition and the oral palate, so the teeth and the roof of the mouth, by 24 months. And that can impact how a child develops their sounds or articulation. So to answer the direct question about pacifiers affecting speech, it is possible to affect sound development depending on the frequency and the age of use and the influence of the pacifier on the individual child's dentition or teeth formation. It's really important, starting from day one, to maximize a baby's opportunity to explore his or her environment. And this really involves communicating by crying or cooing and babbling and mouthing objects and oral exploration, and then eventually first words. And all of these require activation of the mouth and the ability to make sounds. So if there is a pacifier in the baby's mouth, there may be less opportunity to practice these sounds. So while there's nothing wrong with using a pacifier, I recommend primarily using or limiting pacifier use to nap time or sleep time. And instead of immediately offering your child the pacifier during moments of increased emotion, to try to find ways to help your child communicate that emotion or learn how to self-soothe on their own. And depending on the specific needs of your child, wean him or her from the pacifier after 6 months, when the risk of SIDS drops, and before 2 years old, when speech and language development is occurring rapidly. Well, that's it for now. Thank you so much for sending me your questions. And if you have any more questions or comments, please feel free to reach out and message me or contact your local speech language pathologist.